Just my wrestling thoughts of WWE, TNA, and Ring of Honor last weekend. A couple, wrestling news topics that I want to discuss. First off, I want to get on to the wrestling news. Then I'll get into some of the thoughts on Raw from last week, SmackDown, ECW, and TNA Impact. First off, obviously the biggest news, the topic of the last couple days has obviously been Gail Kim's departure from TNA, and obviously she's pretty much 100% sure that she's going to be signing with WWE if she hasn't already signed WWE. And actually, with her not getting released by the company and her contract expired, WWE can actually put her on TV and use her as quick as they want to. I'm not saying that you'll see her as early as tonight's episode of Raw, but definitely if they're going to put her on the Raw brand, it wouldn't shock me within at least 2 to 3 weeks, you'll see some vignettes of her saying, "Coming soon, Gail Kim." Hopefully they'll give her a better gimmick than that whole Matrix-type gimmick she had back in the day. I guess it made sense for the time period when she debuted. The Matrix was pretty popular, so it made sense WWE having one of their women wrestlers or one of their wrestlers in general do a gimmick like that, but hopefully they give her something a whole lot better than that. Definitely her going to WWE and her departing TNA. I'm not saying this is a huge loss for TNA that it's going to hurt them and kill them, but as far as one of their main topics and one of their main things that make their company seem a little different than WWE is its Knockouts division, its women's division, which, in the last couple months has been pretty lackluster, but it's been one of those things that, before Taylor Wilde's reign and a few other questionable things they've been doing the last couple months, it's been one of those things that actually, made TNA seem a little different than WWE. Then WWE obviously saw that, wanted to try to capitalize on it, and then, they're doing some good stuff with their women's division. As far as Gail Kim, I'm pretty sure most likely when she does show up on WWE TV, it will most likely be for the Raw brand, but it wouldn't necessarily shock me to see her get put on the SmackDown brand because they got the Divas title on there, and to make that title more credible, with Gail Kim, being champion for a little bit, that title could make seem at least a little credible on that brand, at least a little bit. Then you got Natty Neidhart, which if her and Gail Kim took on each other, that could be great. She could have great matches with Victoria. She could possibly make Michelle McCool look at least decent in the ring. And, pretty much if she's put on that brand, I think that would elevate that title and make it at least seem like something. But I think it's completely pointless of WWE having 2 women's titles anyway. I'm hoping she gets put on Raw because I really want to see her and Beth Phoenix real bad, and her and Mickie James, and I think her and Melina will be good as well when Melina comes back off her injury. So, good things for WWE there as far as its women's division. Hopefully they use her right, and, just keep using her right. And pretty much her leaving TNA and going back to WWE pretty much was just money issues. She was asking, I guess, for a little too much more money than TNA was planned to offer her, and her contract was expiring. She signed a 3-year contract, and speaking of 3-year deals, her and Gail, she and Team 3D, they signed their contracts exactly at the same time. So, wondering if WWE's interested in bringing back Team 3D, or they're going to be signing back with TNA. Pretty much what I've been hearing, their negotiations with their TNA contracts have been going pretty well. So, at least at this point, it looks like they're probably going to stay with TNA, at least at this point. Then, one of the other big topics of wrestling news is Takeshi Morishima worked a dark match against Charlie Haas on Raw and a SmackDown dark match against Jamie Noble, defeating both of them very quickly. I don't think he used his backdrop driver. I don't know how he defeated Jamie Noble. I know with Charlie Haas, he used the missile dropkick off the top rope to defeat him. WWE has said they've been interested in him for a little while, so definitely I think it would be a good thing for WWE. Definitely he's a very good athlete. He's probably one of those big men that's very agile for his size, and I think WWE would actually use him pretty well, use him in, a monstrous heel type role, kind of like, Umaga, but I think even better, and I think he could do a good thing. The only thing, obviously, is the language barrier. I don't know if he can speak English at all, or if he can speak a little of it, and that's probably going to be the main thing. Obviously, they'll have someone in his corner, possibly, a mouthpiece for him. That's the only thing he would need. and the bad thing is nowadays the manager seems so weak that it's pretty much not that many people that could be managers for him and possibly work. But, maybe WWE will do something good with him if they do think about signing him. It's not going to be anytime soon because right now he's the current GHC heavyweight champion of Pro Wrestling Noah. And obviously he's not going to be able to leave that company until he drops that title and whenever his Pro Wrestling Noah contract ends up. And hopefully, as far as me being a Ring of Honor fan, I want to see at least one last thing with him in Ring of Honor. I want to see one last blow-off match to the Bryan Danielson and Takeshi Morishima feud where Morishima actually finally loses to Danielson and, the feud ends in a fight without honor. Hopefully that will happen at some point, but definitely if he does go to WWE, I wish him all the well, and hopefully WWE uses him as good as he is, because he's definitely one of those big men that WWE, I think, would love to push, and I think they would do a good job with him. Hopefully he won't be just like Umaga or something later on the lines where Triple H will just be squashing him. Hopefully they use him right if they do end up signing him in the near future. Then, two past wrestlers that are returning to the ring very soon. First off with Psycho Sid Vicious, whichever one you want to refer to him as, is and obviously in very good negotiations with WWE to make a return to WWE. And obviously at this point it looks like it's pretty definite, so it's pretty much the deal's already signed. So you're probably going to see Psycho Sid Vicious on one of WWE's brands within the next month or so, as far as what I've been hearing. I guess he has to, pass a wellness policy and see how he's in the ring and how his ring rust is. And definitely with, the way he broke his leg in WCW, is he able to even wrestle to the same that he used to, even though he was never a great worker. And I don't understand why WWE even wants to bring him in, because he's not one of those talents that I think fans are going to be craving for to see a return of. Whereas the other one, I think, the other wrestler that's returning, and this wrestler's not returning to WWE and TNA, and that's Goldberg. Goldberg's going to be making a return to the ring. I don't know if it's going to be for a full-time basis or just a one-shot deal, kind of like what Ultimate Warrior did with Orlando Jordan. Now, he hasn't named the promotion he's going to be going to, but most likely it's probably going to be the NWE promotion. At least that's what I'm speculating on it. Or it could possibly be, a Japanese organization, Pro Wrestling Noah, New Japan, All Japan, or even 0-1. Could be any of those promotions, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see which one he ends up going to. Then as far as, wrestling TV from last week, Monday Night Raw was actually pretty good. The Santino and Beth stuff, match-wise, it wasn't good what they did on Raw, but, Santino's comedy stuff is always very good. And the main event with CM Punk versus Chris Jericho was very good as well, and that was one thing that made Raw at least seem watchable and seem like it was worth going out your way to see. Definitely them two had a very good match. Unfortunately, they had Jericho go over, but pretty much you see that happen nowadays with anyone that's going into their hometown. You pretty much see that wrestler lose all the time, so I can't say, they don't do it with everyone, because they even done it with John Cena when John Cena was on his hot streak back in, I think, 2006 when he lost to Edge in Massachusetts. So definitely, it shows that, they just, after the whole Bret Hart thing, they just want to make sure every wrestler's okay and does the job well, and job's in his hometown, so CM Punk just had to do it. Unfortunately, it was at bad timing because, the night before he finally had that illustrious victory to make himself seem like a credible champion by defeating JBL. Then the next night he lost to Chris Jericho, which Chris Jericho is a good wrestler, and I am a fan of his, but he's not the talent that I think should have defeated the World Heavyweight Champion, especially after CM Punk finally got an illustrious win the night before. As far as ECW I pretty much only watch because Matt Sydal, a.k.a. Evan Bourne's on there. There was at least some watchable stuff on there, but nothing really good. As far as TNA Impact from last week, I pretty much watched basically because it was Gail Kim's last TNA match, and I just want to see her match with Amazing Kong, and definitely them two had a very good match, very good TV match. Not as good as their pay-per-view match or their Impact match they had back in February, but still very good TV match. And the AJ Styles and Kurt Angle ladder match should have been a little better, but as far as free TV, it was at least watchable. So I would say Impact was at least watchable from last week. They're still doing You know, a lot of stuff with this whole Eric Young stuff and some of this Abyss stuff is pretty questionable, but, you know, it seems like hopefully they at least lead to something good for Bound for Glory. Looking forward to see what they might do for No Surrender. Definitely it's their first big pay-per-view outside of the U.S. and Canada, so definitely they have to put together a good card for them to do well there. They definitely did good earlier this year when they went there. As far as SmackDown from last week, you know, pretty much only saw bits and pieces of it, so I can't really comment fully on SmackDown, but pretty much the highlight of SmackDown last week was seeing the very few, maybe a minute or two, seeing Cole Cabana, a.k.a. now Scotty Goldman, in the Battle Royal. Too bad he wasn't in there that long, but, you know, he's kind of like Matt Sydal, where they're probably going to have him job out for a little bit and then finally push him, which I actually prefer that more than the winning streak, because